Sure. My name is Derek Unnasch. I am a tech recruiter, and I work for a private jet charter service called Wheels Up, located in Seattle. I'm a remote recruiter. I've been with the company for a little over 4 months right now. Prior to that, I was working for a major search engine company, but I love tech, and I hope to be doing it for many more years. Sure. The initial approach, that being, they say first impressions are everything, and that would certainly be the case when it comes to recruiting. So I want my initial approach to be extremely impactful. So my number one rule is to be concise. When someone tries to recruit me and I see a wall of words, my eyes glaze over. I'm going to be honest. I don't have any interest in reading just a big wall of words. So mine is about 3 or 4 sentences. It's very concise. It's very informal also. I mean, not in the sense that I'm saying, hey, y'all, I'm not being crazy, but I'm saying it's very personal where I use the person's name. I mention their company in there real briefly, but it looks like it's anything but a form letter. It looks very intentional and like it's a very direct personal approach. That's my best tip right there. Assuming we're talking about the scenario where it's a ghosting situation where I've already engaged the candidate, we have some repartee going and they've expressed some interest, but then all of a sudden they disappear off the radar. In a situation like that, I assume that there has to be a reason. They didn't just forget about me, because I typically stay in regular contact, and that's something that's very important also. But in a situation like that, I try to be very direct in addressing the situation. I will send the person an email or leave them a message. And I will say something to the effect of, look, I noticed that you haven't responded to my last couple of emails or my last voicemail. I'm going to assume that you found another opportunity. So I'm probably going to be going ahead with another candidate, unless I'm wrong, and in which case, please get back to me and maybe we can get things back on track. But if not, I wish you the best of luck. So I gave them an opportunity and now I'm pulling it back. And now, if they are interested, they're going to respond. But if they're not, good. I just, clean that opportunity off the slate. I've tried a number of them. Being in tech, certainly I'm familiar with GitHub, and I am familiar with Indeed and LinkedIn and Dice and some others. But in my experience, hands down, for me, in the approaches that I use, LinkedIn is far and above the best one. I would say LinkedIn. I should qualify that by saying LinkedIn Recruiter. My company, has granted me a license for that. So that's definitely number one for me, hands down, not even a close second. However, I have sought out people, in non-tech capacities, and I try to think outside the box where I could go to find talent there. And one of a very fruitful source that I found was veterans organizations. There's a lot of veterans who are transitioning out of the active military, who are trying to go into the private sector, who have got a lot of good experience. Some of them are relatively green, but that they're disciplined, generally speaking, and they're good apples, and they come off, pretty good and respectful in interviews. So I have joined some veteran organizations on LinkedIn, and they'll have like virtual work fairs and things like that. So that's a very plentiful source, and they're very loyal too. If you help some of them, a lot more will be referred your way from those veteran organizations. But LinkedIn would be my number one. When I'm cold calling, you're saying? Okay. Yeah. So when I'm cold calling, as I touched on this before about the importance of the approach in being very concise, obviously being very methodical in your approach, and keeping careful records. When I'm on LinkedIn, I'm always, I never want to I never want to go and retrace footsteps. So I create projects. But then within those projects, I, establish my pitches. I make my templates. I'm very, very meticulous about that because I hate doing the same work twice. But then when I do make an approach, just to elaborate a little bit more, I already mentioned about being concise, but it's, maybe about like 3 or 4 sentences. And this is the same no matter what I'm going for. I don't care what role it is. I'm going to say, hello, Peter. My company is looking for let's say a software design engineer with almost your exact same skill set. Would you be interested in switching from the mobile industry to the private jet charter industry? Yeah, I like to throw in like a loaded question like that because, there's not a lot of industries that would be more interesting than that. There's certainly some, but not many. And then I have a break and then I go into another sentence. I like to make everything in bite-sized chunks. And then, so I'm kind of selling them on a company at the same time, along with the opportunity. And I say, hey, if you'd be interested, let me know and I'll set up a call next week. I look forward to speaking with you. And then I use their name again. And then that's it. So that would be my best advice as far as, best practices. So in the spirit of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, I have to say that I always believe in erring on the side of aggression. And I don't mean aggression in a bad way, but I mean aggression as in, people who are go-getters, people who are shouting talent tend to be people who are going to ask more questions, tend to be people who have more confidence and are generally speaking going to have, are going to tend more towards the, exuding leadership ability. And that's something you always want, your talent to have the ability, not always, but usually you're going to want, your talent to have the ability to level up. And I think you're going to have a markedly higher percentage among the shouting talent than the whispering talent. Well, when it comes to sourcing, in the capacity that I'm in this company, and I'm full cycle, but generally speaking, my best method of recruiting, as I already mentioned, is LinkedIn. I'll tell you what I don't use that a lot of people do use at their companies, and I used it when I was working for that major search engine company, was the applicant tracking system. I really enjoy pulling in fresh talent. I can source in my ATS, but I have better luck in LinkedIn. Always strive to continue your education. As long as I've been doing this, I still scour YouTube and for hacks and things like that. Or I still go on TikTok and I do hashtag recruiting just to see if there's like some recruiter on there who jumps on there saying, I got this great new tip. It's something I never thought of before. So I would say that would be my number one thing, is keep learning. Number two, if you're new, be sure to network with other people and, share ideas. There's things that, I like to think I know everything, but I don't. I mean, there are people who, have come from other companies that have tricks and hacks and things like that I never knew of. Like, like the whole X-ray recruiting thing was something that I never knew about. I never read about, but, somebody who I was networking with told me about that. And that proved to be really good too. So, and also be very, very organized and turn your workday into a process. I'm a big believer in time blocking. So, this time I'm doing sourcing. This time, I'm doing, emails and correspondence, things like that. And I try to arrange my day, because if you're just reacting all day long to, the emails and the Slack messages and the text being thrown at you, you can lose a heck of a lot in productivity. Some of the mistakes that I've seen are people who rely upon, some people try to get a little bit too diverse in their sourcing methods. I understand the mindset to try to cast like a really wide net, but find the sweet spot. As I mentioned before, LinkedIn was it for me. And anything else I tried paled by comparison. And since everybody else is on LinkedIn, everybody's on LinkedIn, and that just made sense to me. Another mistake that people can make is to, and this is going to be, so my company is national. We span all the time zones, and I'm on the East Coast. So, if I just work 9 to 5 here, I'm basically working pre-morning hours up till 2 o'clock for people on the West Coast. Well, I'm going to miss out on a lot of opportunities then. Okay. And so what I do is myself, and some people, to be fair, they have families and they can't do this. But if you're young and you're new and you don't have those family commitments, and you have the ability to do what I'm going to tell you, I would highly recommend this. I like to start, here's my work day, just to tell you how I account for this. I start ridiculously early in the morning. I'm in the office by 6:30 in the morning, and I'm sourcing for about 2.5 hours straight until 9 o'clock. But then I'm done for at least 2 hours. I work out, I eat, I do anything but, recruiting. And then after that, I go and I jump right back into work, like around 11, and I work for about 3.5 hours, 4 hours. I would say like around 3 or 4 o'clock is when I stop. And then I take a couple hours to do some personal stuff. And then at night, it's just very, relaxed. I'm watching hockey on TV or something, and I'll respond to some emails, things like that. But there are some people that, are still trying to communicate with me at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Now, I don't always accommodate that, but most of the time I do, but not away in a desk somewhere, typing away at a desk. I'm not doing that. And, nowadays I've got Outlook on my phone. So while I'm watching TV, I'm watching Monday Night Football, and somebody gets back to me about an appointment, wants to confirm, I can just right on my phone right there do that. So don't be afraid to transcend the normal 9 to 5 paradigm is what I'm saying, while still keeping a work-life balance, because it's possible.